All right, everyone, welcome back one more time. Here we go. And today, well, we've got another amazing guest, and this is Mary Wilson, and she goes by Mary Hannah Wilson because that is her website. So we'll talk more about her website and what she does. But Mary's a writer, she's a speaker, she's a mother of 4 children. She lives in the North Carolina area, so she'll be able to tell us a little more about that too. And her kids range from middle school to college. So she's an expert when it comes to teenagers. So if you have teenagers, this is definitely a time to be able to kind of like tune in, get ready, because teens are teens are teens, right? So Mary's website, where you can find it at maryhannahwilson.com, she actually encourages and supports parents that really works with them in a way to celebrate literature. And that, to me, that's really great, because I think sometimes people kind of they think that literature is kind of one of those topics that might kind of bog you down a little bit, but this is a passion for Mary, and she has a book club for teens. And I can't wait to hear more about that, because I hear people talk about book clubs, but when you do one and it's for young people and for teenagers especially, that what a difference that has to make. So when she's working with parents on how to celebrate literature, but especially doing it with book clubs for teens. So Mary, just and by the way, I had somebody tell me earlier about you say enneagram, right? Enneagram.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, right.
enneagram.
You're a 7. So we had a 1 on another episode. So you have to tell us about being a 7 and what that likes to look as, as an extrovert, right? And we'll talk about, you were telling me before about, that traveling is important to your family, and like looking at all the different places you can travel to. And you like tea, whether it's iced or hot, and just great conversations and books. So Mary, welcome. We're just super excited to have you here. Our audience we've kind of run everybody, right? So we have people that are checking out what homeschooling could be like. We have some people that are brand new to it, and they kind of have those eyes wide open as, oh my gosh, what do I do? There's so many different possibilities. And then we've got the seasoned veteran homeschool moms like yourself. And I know you were saying that you had a chance to listen to one of the episodes today, and that you have that opportunity to just get that one little nugget that maybe you've been waiting for, and just like having that one little extra thing. And so that's what we want to do for people today, to run the gamut and really give them the opportunity to see everything that's possible in the world of homeschooling. So, thank you for making your day work to be here. I really appreciate you being here. And it's been good to get to know your family over the years that we've had a chance to work together and have kids doing our
Yes.
math programs, which is awesome. So it's great. So tell us a little bit about, in your own words, those are my words about you, but how do you introduce yourself to people, kind of like who you are and what you're up to?
Wow, you already covered so many of the bases, and I'm
Oh,
really excited to be here
good.
and talk to your audience. But yeah, I'm a homeschool mom. Um, I've been homeschooling the whole time. I did have one child try public school. It didn't end up working out. Selfishly, I was kind of glad because, as you mentioned, we do like to travel, and that was about to
Right.
get in the way. But we gave it a go. But other than those few days, we have been homeschool family the entire time. And a few years ago, I started sharing our experiences on a website, and I had no idea that eventually, gosh, it's been 14 years since I've been writing on a blog. I mean, I was there back in the days of Blogger. And
Wow.
I had no idea that that would become such a resource for homeschool parents and a community, really, where we can find each other on social media and just encourage and support each other and find so many ways to do this thing that we call homeschooling because it looks so different for every family.
Absolutely. Well, and so you've been writing for 14 years. That's
Yes.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Okay, so as somebody that's been writing about your homeschooling experience and that journey for 14 years, what are some of the things, like if people wanted, they'll be able to have a chance, we'll make sure they can find you and read about some of the things, but what are some things that you love to write about?
I mean, I love to, of course, write about my kids and
Of
our
course, right?
experiences
Yeah.
together, right? But the current blog that I have has probably only been around about 6 years because that's when I decided to make it a little more than just a personal journal, which was the original blog. But I
Gotcha.
have found since my oldest, she's now 18 and in college, but around the time she hit seventh grade, there's quite a seismic shift in homeschooling. I mean, it
Right.
was an earthquake that I was not prepared for. And I found along the way that a lot of parents are feeling that way. So I love to write really about those tween years and teen years because things change and there's not as many resources. I mean, it's growing, as there are when you're scrolling Instagram with all these little kids doing crafts and art. It doesn't look that way
Right.
when you have a 17-year-old.
Right. Wow. Oh,
So
that's
that's what
awesome.
I love to write about.
I got you. That's so great. And it's funny because I love working with teenagers, and it's funny. To me, they're just in that stage of life where they're interesting. It's like they're
Yes.
going through just everything's just kind of new and kind of they're trying things out. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's just interesting to me. It's like kind of like finding their way. So, all right. So how did you get started in homeschooling with your family?
Um, in college, I met a girl whose parents had homeschooled her, which was kind of weird. I mean, any homeschooler I knew was kind of odd, but this was one
Mhm.
of my really close friends. And she said, "Oh, my mom just did it through third grade just to let us be home in those early years and have a little bit more of a childhood." And I thought, that's an interesting idea. I think I could get on board with that. So when my first daughter started to approach kindergarten, I was in Maryland at the time and they went to full day kindergarten. And I thought, yeah, no, at 5 years old, I don't think she needs to be gone all day. We'll go ahead and give this a little try. We'll just do it through third grade. Well, by the time she was hitting actually fifth grade, we debated sending her to school, but we ended up moving. So went ahead and kept her home again. And then we debated it several times. That seismic shift that happened in seventh grade, oh, it definitely had us debating. Maybe it's
Wow.
time for
Right.
school. But, we fell in love with the freedom and the opportunity and the way I've been able to see my kids truly dive into their passions. And they have become really empowered as teens to kind of take control of their time in a way that I think is limited if you're in the school system. It's not to
Mm.
say you can't do it, but it's just different.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. And I came from both worlds, right? So I was a public school teacher, right? And so I was in that world and now, homeschool family now. What was interesting was we were kind of the reverse of that. Like we didn't bring our kids home until my son came home and I think he finished when after third grade, he came home and my
Yeah.
daughter was still in school and she saw her brother at home and she was a first grader at that time or second grader, but she said, she was like, well, I want to come home too. And so we told her, said, well, when you learn how to read, you can come home, because we thought, well, okay, right.
Right.
Sure enough, she had it all worked out. She could read by the end of the year and home she came. So, we were kind of looking at it as they got older, but we had them in school. So it's kind of funny. You had them at home and thinking they were going to go back. Right. And then we kind of had
Yes.
it ours. Well, let's them want to teach them to read and then we're going to bring them home. But it's kind of funny. It's like people discover homeschooling at all different times. And it's
Yes.
so interesting that you had, that you had a friend and you could say, it's like, wow, this was actually somebody kind of cool. So if they were cool, then maybe this could work
Right.
out
Maybe
too.
it could
So
work.
yeah, that's awesome. So you had a friend in college that was a homeschooler, but how about for yourself? What was your background in education?
Well, I was also a teacher. I
Oh,
taught
okay.
elementary school for 2 years, and then ironically, because I know I write now a lot about literature and book clubs, I got certified in math. I was actually a middle school math teacher.
Oh, yay. They're blowing my heart,
Yay!
right?
The irony is, because people are always like, "Oh, you're so lucky. Then you know math. You could do that." But we were so grateful to find your math classes because I'm only one person, and four levels of math and higher level math, like it was
Sure.
just too much. And it's one of the beautiful things I can say to people is, you don't need that. The resources are out there, and yes, it's great. I can kind of answer some questions up until about algebra 2 at this point. But
Right.
then they have weekly help if they need it with Mr. D.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it was great. So, all right. So you've got a background in teaching,
I
right?
do.
So when you decided to do homeschooling, did you notice that sometimes it's like when you're a teacher, you've got this skill set of being a teacher, right? And not all parents that do homeschooling have that background as a teacher. And I often wonder, do you find that, as being a teacher, was that helpful to you, or did you have to kind of learn things newly for yourself as when you became a homeschool family?
It's a little bit of both. It's a blessing and a curse. The beauty of it is I knew what a school day was like. I knew about the wasted time. I knew that people weren't finishing the books. I mean, I knew the reality of the school
Right.
system. So sometimes when I would talk to homeschool parents and they were feeling so frustrated about certain things, I'd be like, "Oh, But in school, I mean, they have field trip days, they have guest speakers, they have movie days, they have like, it's okay. So I had this knowledge that could put me at ease. But I also had to break free of doing it the school system way.
Mhm.
My first daughter spent a lot more time seated at a desk, doing written things and kind of
Right.
like in our little schoolroom, where by the time my youngest was coming through, we were totally broken free from
Mm,
the way school was, quote, supposed to look in my
right.
head.
Oh, that's awesome. So you could bring some things in. So you kind of like you get the best practices of both. Bring the best practices,
Yes.
things that worked, and then you could see where maybe this didn't work, and you could start discovering. That's so great. So when tell me about the book club. So especially because it's for teens now, and you're young people, they start out young. How did you come across like what kind of got you interested in creating it and even like creating the book club? But you'll have to even just tell us how does a book club work, especially for teenagers, right?
Yeah, so this is actually interesting because I've written about that transition in seventh grade, and of course, one of the big things is socialization. And I know we all love to roll our eyes because we know our homeschoolers are socialized, but there is a reality around seventh, eighth grade where these peer relationships become extremely important, and maybe you used to get away with just taking your kids to the playground and playing with who is ever there. That doesn't fly with tweens and teens. They now need a friend group. And that's actually how I stumbled upon the book club idea. I started talking to some friends who had daughters the same age as mine. I said, why don't we put together a book club for these girls just to make literature fun and give them time with their friends? So our first book club got a little out of control because we were doing Catching Fire, which is the second book in the Hunger Games series. We wanted to start off with just a really fun, popular book. Well, the book club was in September and Halloween was in October, and I was going as Effie Trinket for Halloween. So I called my friend who was hosting the book club and I said, hey, I got this idea. What if I show up to book club as Effie Trinket? How would that go? And
Now,
she was
this
like,
is a character from the book, right?
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah.
a
If you haven't
Hunger
seen the
Games guy.
Hunger Games, okay. Effie Trinket is a very memorable, very
Okay,
made up
gotcha.
woman from the Capitol in her heels and
Oh,
blonde
got it.
wig.
I
Yes.
love it. Okay.
And the friend who was hosting was like, that's a great idea. I'll do all themed food and decorate themed. And we just ended up having a blast. And this kind of themed book club party was kind of born in my daughter's life. We didn't do that every month. Sometimes we just went to Starbucks and talked about the book, but
Right.
every now and then we would do these big themes. And that's the part I like. I've started really sharing on my blog, taking a book title and telling parents, here's some things you could discuss. Here's some things that you could decorate or a craft you could do or something you could do with these kids to kind of have fun with the book so that literature is not just worksheets. That was the
Mm,
goal. Literature is about a love of reading and discussions and opinions. And that's what I love. And just this year, as my kids got older, I'm still running one book club for my youngest, who's in seventh grade, which is where it started for my oldest.
right.
And I started thinking, I wonder if there's a need for this online. And so I do have book clubs from about ages 8 to about 14, somewhere in there. And we don't have all the themed party because we're all in different locations, but the
Right.
point being that literature again can be fun and we can talk about it, share opinions, and not just make it about defining vocabulary words and answering comprehension questions. So
Mm,
it's just been fun. One of my really popular classes, we do only graphic novels, and the kids, I have just loved seeing them learn to talk about theme and setting and illusion and all this great
mhm,
literary terms with graphic novels, which a lot of kids love.
right. All right. You have to tell me, what is a graphic novel?
Oh, well, you know what? I think I have one right here on
Oh,
this
okay.
bookcase
Very
behind
cool.
me.
That's good.
In fact,
Yeah.
this is one of
Us,
my
us math
favorites.
guys are not big readers. So there you go. Right.
Right? This is my math certification apparently at work in very weird ways.
Okay, cool.
But El Defo is one of my favorites for those listening on the podcast. It is the story of a little girl who loses her hearing, and a graphic novel is written in comic book
Oh,
style, but it's
okay.
not quite a comic book. It's a little longer. It is more of a novel, but it's all written creatively through graphics.